Huge pressure this morning on our leader, Sir Keir Starmer, our leader, to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, known as the Terror Army, and to prescribe them as a terrorist organisation. We believe upwards of 500 people have already been killed. The eyes of the world fixed on Iran, and Donald Trump saying that there is a red line, and if they cross it, they will be in trouble. We say a very good morning. It's been a while. Former Defence Select Committee Chair, Tobias Ellwood. Happy New Year, Tobias. How are you?
Happy New Year to you as well. Good to see you.
And you, my friend. I don't want to get into a huge debate about Trump, but I just wanted to make a point about Iran, because I think it's very important that people know this, because, you know, we can have an argument about Greenland and Venezuela. The mad mullahs in Iran have funded every single terror group across the Middle East for years. Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah. This is an absolutely appalling regime that destroys everything in its own country and its own people, doesn't have a media, carries out the most horrendous treatment of its people. Is Trump right to say there's a line, and if you cross it, we're going to make sure we do something about it, Tobias?
Well, you're right to say it is complicated. And yes, there's much truth in what you've just said, given Iran's proxy influence across the region for decades. And in truth, none of us, including Donald Trump in his last term of office, have done enough about it to stand up to Iran's influence, destabilizing pressure across the Middle East. He took out General Soleimani, you might remember, back in, I think, January 2020, because of what he was doing and using his Quds force as an influence, but then didn't follow it up. And that's my worry here, as we now say, let's place pressure on the Revolutionary Guard. There's no doubt about it. We are watching something quite incredible here. And there's a strong belief that this regime may indeed topple. This is the biggest show of dissent, and huge courage to those individuals that are on the streets today that are challenging this regime, this 47-year-old theocracy. What we need to be clear of is what then happens next, because if you do something to change the dynamics there by, let's say, a military attack, you could actually gift power to the very people we're talking about, to the military, which are the most organized group, largest and most powerful group in Iran. Nobody wants that. The opposition is completely divided. So we're entering very, very uncharted waters here, recognizing that actually this regime has never been weaker. There's economic hardship, which has triggered all of this, caused by those sanctions. Food inflation is just over the top, and the elites have just looked after themselves, and that's why the people have come out. But the anger is partly inside Iran, because those proxy organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, have been supported by Iran, and the Iranian people say, no, look after our country, look after us. And then, of course, we had that 12-day war where the US and Israel pounded Iran, weakening the regime's authority and its legitimacy. So we are at a junction now, and we need to tread very, very carefully in any utility of force, given, as I say, that we could actually gift power to the very organization that we're now discussing whether we should list or not.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And in fact, you know, one of the criticisms of Trump will be, and America in the past in terms of their foreign policy, is that they see themselves as the defender of the free world, and they go in and do their stuff. It's the aftermath. It's what happens. We can say that about Venezuela. Couple of things. Support here in London, thousands taking to our streets as these protests gather. And that whole thing about media blackout, because we have to remember that the people of Iran are only told what the state broadcaster wants to tell them. And it's really, really important. As you said, this could be a seminal moment. Can you explain to me at this seminal moment why our Prime Minister is facing pressure? Why? And actually, this isn't just Starmer, this is also the Tories. Why has the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, known as the Terror Army, these people who have murdered people who dared to stand up, why has it not, over many years, Tobias, been prescribed as a terror organisation?
Good question. One of the reasons is simply because nobody has invested time to understand what's going on and stand up to it. It backs to our point before. It's interesting you talk of America, Trump being perhaps the custodians of our global order. I think we both have to agree that that's less the case now, but Trump believes that he should have an interest there. It's important that he follows that up. We also need to recognize that Britain and America don't have a good track record in this country. The reason why the revolution took place back in 1979 is because we propped up a decadent and corrupt leader, the Shah himself. We actually removed a prime minister back in 1953, I think it was, because he became too close. Operation Boot, CIA, MI6, and so forth. So we need to remember our own history as we look to a country which absolutely has been at the core of destabilizing the entirety in the Middle East, committed to the destruction of Israel. And because we've avoided that big question, we've led to the decades of turmoil, trouble, instability that we've seen unfold on our television screens. So this is a critical moment. I would add something else, and we're not there yet. But you remember what happened in Rwanda, where the world blinked as we saw the scale of atrocities take place. The question is as to how much death and destruction do we need to see this regime enact before we then say enough? We should not allow humanity to operate in this way. We need to step in.
It's really interesting, isn't it? We're talking about people's lives here, and yet we're talking about political timing. What is the right time? Can you do enough? Is it the moment where all sides will come together? The Shah of Iran's son, I know, is speaking out. He's in America, but you're right. There's going to come a point where the world should recoil in horror and say, what is it, 500 deaths, 1,000 deaths, 2,000 deaths? People should not forget, and they will criticise Trump, and I get it, but people should not forget, as I said, that the mad mullahs of Tehran, as I will say forever on this show, have financed terror across the Middle East for as long as anybody can remember. And I think most of the world would agree that if there is a moment, and I don't know what that moment is, it now, is it in a week, is it in a day, when and if there is a moment to rid the world of this horrendous regime, it is right that that happens. Sum it up for me, Tobias, please.
Yes, I think you've done it yourself very well indeed. These are the big questions. But let's recognize that there's less desire, appetite to step in and sort these problems out after we wandered into Iraq and Afghanistan with very poor outcomes. And therefore, understandably, America, other countries are saying, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to own this problem. But often in the case today, if you don't learn from the mistakes of what went wrong in those other places, we need to then think carefully of the consequences of doing nothing today, allowing this regime to survive. It's done this before, back 3 or 4 times over the last 3 decades or so. It's come out with such force and brutality to quash any uprisings that's taken place. 2009, the presidential elections that were fixed there. 2022, when a very brave female dared to take off, her shawl. So these are the things that are happening today. We can't stand aback and simply criticize it. We do need to step forward and act.
Mate, great to have you on. We've missed you. Thank you so much indeed. Brilliantly summed up. Tobias Ellwood there talking about the situation in Iran. We will keep you updated. 12 minutes to 8.